John and I met, I thought I knew what it was gonna be like to date a veteran, to date a combat veteran, but I really had no idea. Early in our relationship, I think there were many times where it didn't feel worth it to kind of battle through this reality that we were both learning how to navigate and learning how to do that together. And I think my biggest advice for a family or a couple that's navigating the reality of combat stress is that you have to figure out the right way to communicate together. So one night, we had just found out recently that we were pregnant, and I was very sick, very tired. I was still working full-time, and I had traveled across the country and came home to BWI Airport after midnight, very sick, and for some reason I couldn't get a car. I felt stuck at the airport, but I couldn't get my husband on the phone. He wasn't answering, and I cried on the sidewalk outside of the airport with my bag, and I just felt stuck. Eventually I got in a taxi and I got home, and I found my husband alive but fairly unresponsive in bed, and I felt pretty angry and bitter in that moment that my needs didn't seem to matter at that moment. And it wasn't that he didn't care, it's that he couldn't think outside of himself despite what I needed in that moment. I've never been one to be very good about asking for help or being vulnerable, but that night it became clear to me that even though my husband is one of the most dedicated and passionate men that I know, that was really the first night where I realized that there were times where he couldn't be that rock for us because he needed to focus. And that's hard for me to not be able to check in with my partner and not be able to tell him, when I'm struggling that I'm not okay. But at least I can trust that he always comes out the other end. What gives me hope is waking up every day knowing that I get to look at the world through my boys' eyes and that they get to watch their dad continue to lead in this city and in the country as the leader that this country trained him to be. I believe that our veterans have so much more to offer than just their time in uniform. That night at the airport was 5 years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And I remember that it was such a pivotal moment for me to realize that PTSD is bigger than my strong Marine husband, and it's bigger than we were able to tackle in that moment, but it's the reality that we will live with and learn and push through for the rest of our lives.